Land Development Corporation is called to order. Item number 3, public comment. Do you have anyone who'd like to address? Thank you. Anybody here who wants to? Yeah, hearing none. Item number 4, minutes. Consideration of and action on the approval of the minutes of the July 7th, 2026 meeting. Okay, we got a motion by Miller and a second by Single. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, 7-0. Thank you very much. Item number 5, orientation. Review of and discussion on purpose, roles, responsibilities, and functions of the Sugar Land Development Corporation. Toby Millenbrook, Business Recruitment Manager.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Today you will be receiving your annual SLDC orientation. In the binders in front of you, you have lots of good information, including the bylaws, some budget information, and some of the local governing codes. Before we get too far, though, I'll give you a quick background of economic development corporations in Texas. The Development Corporation Act of 1979 allows Texas cities to fund economic development through economic development corporations, or EDCs, with the purpose of using local sales tax dollars to fund projects that create or attain primary jobs. Primary jobs are jobs that assist in the development of goods or services that are then sold outside of the local region. This is important because as the city attracts more primary jobs, they need somewhere to live, which increases the demand for housing. As the demand for housing increases, so does the demand for grocery stores, retail, entertainment, and other places for them to spend their money. As these employees spend their money, they generate property tax and sales tax, which the city can then reinvest into quality of life amenities, city services, and the attraction of more primary employers, which continues the economic development cycle. Lastly, EDCs are governed by the Texas Local Government Code, and Type A corporations are overseen by a board of directors. Looking at the budgetary impact, sales tax is the largest revenue source in the general fund, making up 42% of total revenues, followed by property tax, which makes up 32%. The key takeaway here is that economic development plays a vital role in funding quality of life, infrastructure, and community amenity. In 2025, there were 188 Type A EDCs reported. These nonprofits can collect up to 1/2 cent of sales tax dedicated to funding economic development. These 188 Type A corporations collectively accrued over $700 million in sales tax revenue last year. That revenue can then fund land, buildings, equipment, facilities expenditures, and targeted infrastructure and improvements for projects including manufacturing and industrial facilities, infrastructure improvements that promote or develop new or expanded business enterprises, research and development facilities, regional or national corporate headquarters, and aviation facilities. Type A corporations may issue bonds, notes, and other contractual obligations to fund these projects. This allows the corporation to undertake bigger economic development initiatives without waiting to accumulate cash from sales tax revenue. They can also spend up to 10% of their funding on marketing expenditures like advertising, sponsorships, and other promotional materials. This is important because marketing Sugar Land can help attract new businesses, showcase the city's amenities, and help expand economic development opportunities. As a note, Type A funds can be used for Type B projects, which are more quality of life focused projects like Smart Financial Center, if approved by the voters. I'll now talk specifically about the Sugar Land Development Corporation. The Sugar Land Development Corporation was approved by the Sugar Land voters in 1993. The SLDC's role is to promote the attraction, retention, and expansion of primary jobs within our target industries. Those target industries being advanced manufacturing, life sciences, business and professional services, and information technology. The 7 members of the SLDC are the members of City Council and the mayor. And lastly, 1/4 of every sales tax dollar goes towards Type A funding. The Central Prison Unit acquisition, Smart Financial Center, and the Sugar Land Town Square improvements are all examples of some of the more high-profile projects done through the SLDC. While our direct incentive program has incentivized millions of dollars of capital investment and hundreds of jobs from companies like AOI, Hope Bio, Deliver It, just to name a few more recent ones. All of our performance agreements do have clawbacks to protect our funds. Each performance agreement has job and salary requirements, but should those not be met, incentives would be reduced. And lastly, should the agreement be terminated due to company breach, the incentive payments would be repaid with interest. Looking at board expectations, again, there are 7 members of the board who will elect a president and vice president annually, and terms are concurrent with the city council member's term of office. We follow the Open Meetings and Public Information Acts as guided by city council direction and policies. The city manager or designee, which is the equivalent of a general manager, provides day-to-day operational support. Lastly, there is a budget that is approved annually by city council. All expenditures are approved via a public hearing or public resolution, and public hearings and legal notices are required for projects. As far as important dates go, the SLDC board meets on the first Tuesday of every month at 4 p.m. Economic Development Committee appointments happen in June. Budget workshops take place in July and August, with budget approval taking place in August and September. Officer elections take place in August. And lastly, the annual report takes place each January. Some key takeaways are that the SLDC is here to create, retain, and expand primary employers in Sugar Land. It focuses on job creation, high-quality employment, and economic growth. Type A corporation is funded by voter-approved local sales tax. The SLDC provides financial incentives and infrastructure support to businesses. It increases employment opportunities and strengthens the local tax base. And it ensures transparency, accountability, and a measurable economic impact. Thank you very much for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions? Thank you, Colby.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Nice job. Okay, item number 6, resolutions. Consideration of and action on Sugar Land Development Corporation Resolution Number SLDC R 2604. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Sugar Land Development Corporation adopting a policy on granting economic development incentives to qualifying companies and repealing resolution number SLDC R 2401 with Alba Penate Johnson, Assistant Director of Economic Development.
Good afternoon. So today I'm presenting the recommendation to update the direct incentive policy. We did workshop this recommendation in May, as you may remember. And the primary focus of this recommendation is to change the salary requirement and how we maintain that requirement over the life term of the agreement. Our goal is to ensure the policy remains competitive, responsive to market conditions, and focuses on supporting quality jobs and strategic investment. So as we begin, I do want to talk about why this policy matters. So it does give us a framework for evaluating economic development opportunities while still allowing us to remain flexible and responsive to the market. So there are 3 primary reasons for why this policy is important. First, we need to remain competitive in our market. The economic development market does continue to evolve, and so our policies do need to evolve with it. Second, we do need to invest strategically. Type A resources are sales tax funded and are restricted by state law. So we want to ensure that they are used to support projects that generate meaningful jobs, capital investment, and new tax revenue, both when it comes to property tax value and sales tax revenue. And third, we have limited developable land remaining, so we do need to prioritize those opportunities and get the best and highest use out of that land. So before discussing the proposed changes, I want to briefly highlight what our current policy outlines. It includes minimum requirements related to job creation, salaries, capital investment. It also considers a company's financial standing, business history, and relevant business sector. As you may recall, we do have 5 target industries within our policies, and we do focus solely on those. The maximum agreement duration is currently 10 years, and the projects must meet the required rate of return, which is currently at 7 to 10%. The direct incentive program is funded through restricted type A funding and can provide cash grants to qualifying projects. And as I mentioned before, today's recommendation does not change the overall purpose of the policy. Instead, it focuses on establishing how we maintain our salary. So currently, the policy establishes a fixed minimum average annual salary of $61,240. So the fixed number does not automatically change as the local labor market changes. So we are recommending that we move to a market-based minimum. Specifically, the minimum salary requirement would be tied to the hire of, which is Sugar Land or Fort Bend County, for the specific industry. So whether it's industrial or office, it would be tied to that specific industry. Those two are very, very different when it comes to industrial versus professional services. It would allow the policy to reflect current local economic conditions and recognize that salary expectations do vary greatly from industry to industry. The goal is to keep pace with the market, support quality jobs, remain competitive and flexible, and obviously better reflect our economy. The second component of the recommendation involves the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. CPI is widely used as a measure of inflation that tracks changes over time in the prices consumers pay for goods and services. So in the context of our incentive agreements, CPI can provide a consistent benchmark for reviewing whether salary levels are keeping pace with changing economic conditions. Companies would do direct cost of living adjustments per the CPI if they choose to do so, although it is legally not required in Texas. For example, if their required average salary is 70,000 and the CPI for that year increases by 2%, then the average annual salary required through the agreement would increase to $71,400. So the purpose, of course, is not to simply increase the requirements, is to establish a consistent method for evaluating salary requirements over the life of the agreement instead of staying at a fixed average salary. So under the proposed approach, we would first establish a salary baseline at the time the agreement is approved for that year. Then each year after, the salary requirement would be reviewed using the applicable CPI. If the CPI increases, the required average annual salary would increase by that corresponding percentage according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And if the CPI decreases, the benchmark may also be adjusted downward rather than remaining fixed. The adjusted salary requirement would then be evaluated as part of the compliance process that we do every year with each agreement and compared to the annual salary for those eligible jobs. Again, the key benefit here is that we do remain objective and consistent in our method and targeting those economic conditions that, in the last 6 years have been extremely volatile. So to summarize, staff is recommending 2 primary changes. First, we recommend replacing the current fixed minimum salary of $61,240 with an industry-based salary benchmark using the hire of Sugar Land or Fort Bend County at the time. We do use JobsEQ and the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to determine that number. Second, we would recommend incorporating CPI into individual performance agreements to establish a method for adjusting that required average annual salary every year through the life of the agreement. So based on this review, staff does recommend approval of resolution number SLDCR 26-04 and the repeal of resolution number SLDCR 24-01. The approval would allow the direct incentive policy to move from a fixed salary requirement to a more market responsive approach and establish a method for addressing salary changes over the life of the incentive agreement. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Tim?
Great job. This is one of the things I had an issue with, so thank you guys for taking care of it. On a couple of previous slides, you referenced if CPI goes up, salaries will move up. Use the word will move up. If CPI goes down, salaries may be adjusted down. Is that intentional?
It is intentional, so we obviously want the CPI percentage to increase. If it does go downward in case of a recession or whatnot, we would not want to hold the company required to go down, but if they chose to do so, we would incorporate that into every individual performance agreement.
Okay, so that's that if it goes down, that's subject to approval by.
Correct. And that obviously that project would come to you guys, the board of directors, for approval.
Zan?
First of all, thank you, because Jim did bring this up and you evidently heard him and did some good work getting this done, so thank you for that. Couple of questions. Who monitors the compliance for CPI?
So right now we have established a new process and have a consultant doing our compliance process, but we do it every year for every single incentive agreement.
So we would know, sorry, follow up.
Yes.
So we would know that they're in compliance with the CPI adjustments every year for all the businesses. Okay. And second?
Yes. Go ahead.
So you mentioned that CPI adjustments are not mandated by the state, or they don't have to be. Are we on any, or is that legal for us if we're mandating that they adjust it and it's not state required? Are we on sticky ground? Is that okay?
I will defer to Meredith on that, but every company that we have done an agreement with always adjusts their salaries per the living adjustments.
Even though it's not state regulated?
It's usually a good company
Is that okay?
practice, but I'll defer to Meredith.
Yes, it's a contract negotiation. So if we're requiring them to do something to receive the reimbursement, it's fine.
I just follow up. I just didn't want to have any pushback saying, hey, you can't make us because the state can't make us, so we're not doing it.
So the agreements that we negotiate are legally binding, and the company would agree to those terms. So once they've agreed to those terms, we bring it to the board of directors for y'all's approval as a legally bounded document.
Making sure we've got clearance.
Yes.
Thank you.
No more follow-ups?
I'm done, thank you.
Anybody else, Ron?
Sure. I mean, that is the whole point of this committee, right? Is to put stipulations on the funds that we give out to create benefit for the residents here of Sugar Land. But, thank you for taking the feedback and adding in, more stringent requirements for this. I think that's one of the things we want to do is to protect the taxpayers, make sure that we have these protections in place. Right now, we have usually the job count or it's the salary. One feedback on this one is going to be, how do we differentiate between, say, exempt and non-exempt? I know sometimes it kind of gets blended together and that's kind of where the averages go, right? But how would we push for, say, more higher paying jobs in any of these contracts if that wanted to be done?
Could I ask you to repeat the question a different way? I want to make sure I'm answering it correctly.
So whether we're looking for, let's say, technician jobs versus high paying, whether it's, PhD research or engineers, just naming jobs here. How would we drive for more higher paying jobs through these contracts?
So we have chosen and have been very specific about the target industries that we have chosen to focus on. So when we look at advanced manufacturing, we were looking at plastic packaging, for example, 5 years ago. Now we've looked into semiconductor manufacturing. So those jobs have naturally kind of gotten to a higher average. When you look at professional services, we're about $86,400, as I checked this morning, for any financial service companies. And so we're averaging higher than any other city in Fort Bend County and are very competitive to just Harris County. So I would say that it's, naturally, the market within Sugar Land has always lent itself to higher paying jobs. However, there needs to be a diversification in the target industries to allow for what I would call indirect spending. So within a company, you could have manufacturing processes, but you also have the office functions. You need both for the economy to be stable and balanced. And so although, yes, these agreements are meant to cover higher paying jobs, the balance would be that you need both jobs, the lower paying jobs and the higher paying jobs to make it worthwhile. And so we want to be conscious of that, but every project is very specific, right? And so, but the goal for our agreements will always be to get the higher paying jobs.
Yeah, I guess the only concern is just that we don't set the bar too low, right? That's just easy money.
Anybody else? Any other questions? We need a motion to approve.
Make-
Suzanne and Sanjay?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, Alba. Item number 8, budget. Amend the fiscal year 26 budget and fiscal year 27 budget, consideration of an action on amending the fiscal year 2026 budget to projections, adoption of the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget, and a recommendation of the proposed fiscal year budget to the members of City Council. I understand that Justin Mejorado is not feeling well, but I know in my heart he's at home watching.
I believe
No matter
so.
how ill he is, he probably crawled to his computer.
Very fun.
And we're fortunate to have Shaleigh Stedman in his place.
Yes, he would much rather be here, I believe, so. But yes, I'm here to talk about budget. So just to kind of reorient you where we're at in the process. We've already completed the board workshop, which was in July, the budget filing, and the city council workshop. Today is simply the final board approval of the fiscal year 26 projections, the fiscal year 27 budget before it moves forward to council for adoption on September 15th. There are 2 items, actually 3. I've broken out the second item that needs your approval on. So jumping to this, you have already seen these estimates quite a few times now, so I won't spend much time here. The main change is simply capturing the stronger revenue projection driven by sales tax, which puts the fund in a more favorable position than originally was budgeted. Specifically, revenue comes in about $660,000 above adopted budget, which flows straight to the ending fund balance. Now the projected is at 22.6 million. That also pushes our bond coverage ratio up to 3.8 times, comfortably above the 1.6 requirement. So this leads me to our first action, amending the fiscal year 26 budget to projections. Simply allows us to formally adjust our revenue budget to capture those additional sales tax dollars in the year-end numbers.
This is three separate action items, right? Okay, anybody have any questions about the first one?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Second.
okay, Single and Bandahar. Anybody any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any against? Thank you very much.
Fiscal year 27's revenue estimate totals 11.2 million, with 10.5 million in sales tax collection and 0.7 million in interest income. These revenues, along with existing fund balance funds, are 17.8 million in expenditures. 7.8 is for our economic development. 4.6 is our transfers out, and if you remember, that's the portion that reimburses our general fund and also goes to our debt service to fund the issuance connected with Imperial. And then on the capital projects, we have 2.5 million. That includes our major street rehabilitation and the LED light conversions for our major light roadways. And then the last is the 2.9 for debt service. The fiscal year 27 budget also leaves us in a strong position with 14 million in fund balance over policy and a strong bond coverage ratio. The trend continues across the 5-year forecast, which gives us capacity to take on future economic development expenditures. Which leads me to the second item.
One question I had on this previous one, on financial year 28, the expenditure is dropping. Is it because some of the incentives are dropping out from the, like from 17.83, we are going to 14.14? Is that some significant payout has been dropping?
I believe the majority of that is the capital projects. So specifically, I talked about how we're funding that LED project. That would be one of those big drops. That's a one-time cost in 27's budget.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sure. More of a long range question here, but I see the ending fund balance is diminishing, right? Are we planning to use any of this money for bigger projects coming up, or no thoughts on that whatsoever? Or for general discussion?
So this is, yes, we do have a planned drawdown of our fund balance, and that is connected with the issuance of debt that we have with in the future. We plan to bring that back up. You can see the barely drawdown in fiscal year 31. But that still does give us the capacity for future bigger projects. I don't have any specific numbers, or we would have built it out in the project right now, in the budget right now.
Yeah, sure. I was just commenting on Imperial or anything else. Like, we don't need the money for anything like that, do we? Or to be determined at a future date,
Stuff comes up, right?
right?
Me? Rodriguez, I would just say in terms of Imperial or future, whatever happens at the central unit, those are all things that we're working on into the next year. We don't have physical numbers to project out in those terms, but those are some of the highest priorities in terms of future economic development priorities.
And I will say that we adopt the first year, the 5-year forecast is just to show where we're going to be with the current plan.
Suzanne?
Yes, can you go back to, I guess, one slide? Yes, right there. Debt service. So I'm looking at the capital projects, and then I'm looking at debt service, annual payments on the corporation's outstanding debt. Do you know the obligation term on those and putting that? I mean, those are probably how many years out, and what term are we looking at? Do you know?
Justin would know right off the top of
No,
his
and you
mind.
can guess.
So,
I'm just looking at that. That's all. I'm just asking that because if we're looking at
Same question.
the debt service on those, and we're looking at the fund balance, I just kind of want to know how that balances out in the long term. If we're looking at 5, 10, 15 years.
yes, I will have to get back to you on that exact answer. But we do track it and we are watching it.
Oh, I know that. I
So
just.
that's why we're confident in what we built in that forecast with that time drawdown.
I'm going to comment that is 2040. There are 3 of them and the graphs are given there. So it's 2040 and one of them 2045.
Okay.
If you go to the next slide, you see that the bond coverage ratio stays very healthy.
Right.
So that is, I mean, the number that you asked about is baked in.
Okay, which is important, very important. Thank you.
Other questions, anybody? Okay, we need a motion. We've got one by Rick. We got a second by Sanjay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Last item,
The
please.
last is very similar, just the recommendation for council adoption on September 15th.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Motion. Okay, all right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, Soleil. Item number 8, Director's Report. And we are so fortunate to have a double dose of Alba today.
Okay. So for director's report, which is kind of wanting to give you a summary of what we've done in July. We've kept up with our VRE visits, of course, have had recent VRE visits with Scope, Turnio, AOI as they do an ongoing expansion. Helix and Nexus Waters Group. This strengthens our partnerships and relationships with our primary employers. We've also hosted at Smart Financial and Constellation Field. Recently, we hosted Wonton Foods, who is also doing an expansion at their facility. And we have hosted batch 4 selection day with Plug and Play, where startups pitch to corporations like Exxon, Chevron, Rice, U of H, and NASA. And so we did have a diverse range of industries for this batch, including AI, energy, robotics, and cybersecurity. So we're very happy about this partnership and what it's doing for the startup ecosystem, not just for Sugar Land, but for the Houston region. As far as economic development, I did want to touch on a few FY26 metrics. For business retention visits, we're at 39 out of 40 visits. This is focused on obviously connecting with our employers and understanding their operations to make sure that we're ahead of the game if there's any expansions or any challenges that they're seeing on the horizon. This number only reflects scheduled on-site visits and does not include ongoing follow-ups, expansion conversations, or project coordination. For business recruitment visits, we're at 69 out of 40. So, Colby is really going there. We are focused on staying up to date on the market. And so this does include brokers, site selectors, companies that we want to attract to Sugar Land and regional partners. A metric that we closely track is how many RFPs that we receive either from the state, the Greater Houston Partnership, or immediately from site selectors and brokers themselves. We've received 148 to date. We've only been able to respond to 7 RFPs. This is mainly due to the lack of land that we do have. So the average acreage that we're being asked for is 40 to 50 acres, all the way up to 1,000 acres. And so unfortunately, we don't have that. I wish we did though. As far as tourism, we just did a tourism marketing initiative with Sweeter with Her, which is a spinoff of the Sweeter with You campaign. The team used the LMA concert at Smart Financial as an opportunity to show how a concert can become a full Sugar Land getaway. So the activation brought together 6 creators with a combined audience of nearly 235,000 people and included local tourism partners across lodging, dining, shopping, beauty, and transportation. We were able to secure creator participation without paying creator fees, making this a very cost-conscious activation. It resulted in over 20,000 views on creator content and 68,000 views on Visit Sugar Land content. But most importantly, nearly 60% of the views came from non-followers. And so it is helping us reach new audiences and create use high interest events to encourage overnight stays and introducing visitors to what Sugar Land has to offer. And then on our tourism team, Allison and Jordan attended the U.S. Travels Association ESTO conference last week. This is a conference for destination marketing professionals, and our very own Jordan represented us as a featured speaker. She led a peer discussion on rebranding with purpose, turning cultural identity into destination demand. And the session was very well attended, and she did position Sugar Land as a great thought leader in tourism. For our redevelopment team, they are leading a community-informed mural project at Imperial as part of the interim activation efforts to bring new life to the site while master developer negotiations are underway. And so mural artist Tyler King has been very busy since the beginning of July, meeting with key stakeholders like the Sugar Land Heritage Foundation, representatives from the Hill and Mayfield Park neighborhoods to gather stories. The city also launched a community input. Residents could share their ideas, stories, and photos to inspire the artists within the design. And this Thursday, weather permitting, of course, we'll invite the community back for a Paint by Numbers event, giving residents the opportunity to help bring the mural to life before its completion later this month. We also obviously would love for each one of you to participate and attend and use your networks to invite people out. I will say though, that out of the 150 slots offered to the community, all were filled within 24 hours. And so we are very excited that the community is being very responsive to this project and very involved. And that is what I have for you right at 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Alba.
Thank you.
Anybody care to move to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm ready.
Yeah, I want